them feeling like they're the problem, because they're not. You know, they're somebody that needs help. And I think that she felt that way from when I've spoken with them. I've not met her.
This team that's standing up here with you right now, is this the team that was part of this operation? Is it just this 5, 6?
No, they were almost 21 individuals.
Okay.
These are some of the main players in that operation, some of the detectives that were really deep into it, but it's only a fraction of it. 21 total individuals over 2 days. Our first operation was during daytime hours, and it was a learn and go situation. The nighttime operation was much more busy, much more successful. The daytime was kind of slow, but you learn as you go in these kind of things.
Is it common that the perpetrator wouldn't have been with her?
That's what we were looking at. We were in this whole operation. We were wondering those questions. Are people going to come with them? And that's why we had an outside team as well. We wanted to see who's dropping these ladies off or these victims off. We really honestly can answer that question and say we didn't know what to expect from that. If I look at it from a law enforcement perspective, I would have thought, yeah, they're probably watching these people. Maybe they're bringing them or dropping them off. But in this incident, it was a ride share provided by the perpetrator that brought her here that he paid for.
So just so I'm following, he had her in Charlotte and sent her out here through a ride share.
Yes.
Do you think that there might be other minors that he's done this to?
Well, that's something that we have to look into, the records and phones. I mean, we don't rule. Those are questions we don't know the answers to, but we hope to find that out. And that's working with other resources like Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, which they have their whole unit assigned to this. Also, the FBI may get involved. We don't know those situations right now, but yeah, it could come from anywhere. They could come from Salisbury and go to Charlotte, so it's just not necessarily. Charlotte's just a bigger place, more people. So
I guess after this, getting a look at what trafficking looks like here, is there anything parents should know?
I think that it's hard. I'm a parent of 4, and I had a 16-year-old daughter at one time, and we always had a good, close relationship. So it's hard for me to understand how parents lose that where my child is thing. But if they run away, there's all kinds of dynamics in families. It's a sad situation. I don't know the answers are to or that, but I would say that parents definitely need to be very aware of what their children do on social media. This wasn't a child that had lived at home. This is a child that had left home and had run away. So I don't know. That parent was probably a little helpless in that situation, but parents have to be very cognizant and aware of the social media that their children are on, even the ones that are at home, even the ones that are, for say, not in trouble or not a runaway. You need to be aware of what your children are doing online and who they're talking to, not necessarily because they're children that may be bad children, but they can be taken advantage of easily. They're a little bit gullible sometimes, and they can be manipulated in ways that are concerning to law enforcement. But I think just being aware of what your children do on social media, and sometimes we forget that we want to be friends to our children instead of parents, and that's hard to do, speaking from experience, because we want to be liked just as much as we want good kids, and sometimes it's hard to put those two together.
You talked about the shock once you were able to identify this one 16-year-old girl, and they kind of changed everything for you guys. In talking about your personal ties with you being a dad, and I assume maybe some people behind you have personal ties with children, families of their own. So when we talk about the mental health aspect of recovery and kind of going home with all of the operations that had just transpired, what resources did the department, if any, provide to these detectives?
We always offer, and our employees know that anytime we have operations of this nature, that they are encouraged to seek help. We provide that help at no cost. And I'm sure this was traumatic, but what I saw in this group from this experience was almost not joy that the young lady was in that situation, but it's always fruitful when you see your hard work result in something that I think is just so amazing. And I think that's how they felt. I think it was I'm speaking for them, and maybe one of them will comment later, but I would have felt, wow, look what. Because often what jobs in law enforcement that we do, we never really get any recognition for. It's the same thing over and over, every night, every day. But when you can actually throw one of those starfish back in the ocean, you saved one. I mean, that's a heavy moment. That could last you a career. that could almost erase all the bad things they see their entire career and just be something that actually turns their mental outlook into more positive than negative, because they actually take part in something that helps. Usually we show up when it's too late. You know, we usually show up with the murder victims there, especially these guys. We show up when it's too late. They actually showed up before anything really bad happened, and they actually were able to see a positive result. So I think it was from what I've seen in them, I've seen encouragement, I've seen a lot of happiness about what they were able to accomplish.
I think I have one question just about
Sure.
Mr. Williams. Do we have any sort of timeline of the next time he will appear in court? When because I know he's coming back towards Charlotte, and we know he's here now, but he's heading back towards Charlotte.
Right.
Do we have any sort of timeline with him?
No, right now we don't. He's already had his first appearance on what he's charged with right now. So, you know, there's not any other preliminary more hearings that's not already scheduled that you'll know about by checking court records. I'm sure we would do us or the Charlotte Met or whoever will give press releases or or notify the Post or the public when news media when other charges are obtained. We are pursuing those and looking at those, but again, it's a process that we don't want to mess up, because this could very well be case law one day. So we have to really go slow. We feel comfortable that he's under a bond that he's not going to make. So we're safe right now. We know the juvenile. The main thing, we know the juvenile's safe. Her family knows where she's at, and currently we're not involved with her. She's in the healing time. She's in a getting better time. These cases take forever to come to trial anyway. So hopefully that we keep hearing good news about her.
Is she reunited with her family?
I don't know if they have met yet. Her family was contacted that very same evening and very heavily involved in what was going to be the next steps. And so I'm sure that they have been reconnected in some way. But we don't, once we don't have possession of that juvenile, it's kind of like a medical condition. Even if I knew, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but law enforcement steps back. We step back from that situation and let that person heal. So we don't really engage with those victims after that very much. Same thing with victims of child abuse and things like that. Once you got to give them their time and their space. But we haven't heard any bad things family-wise or anything.
I know you commented on your message to parents. What about the people that work in the hotel industry? Is there things that they should be out on the lookout for?
Yes, they should. They should really be on the lookout for these type of people coming and going from those establishments. It's just a matter of caring. We were very fortunate. I'm not released the name of our local hotel, but they were eager to help us. So we were glad of that, and we were glad that they took it. They would allow us to do that, because you could imagine that would be a very sticky situation. That some establishments may not want you there because they have more than one guest. They have several guests in that place. So first we have to ensure the safety of the guests in our operation, and we also have to protect them in a way. But it's definitely something that hotels and managers and owners should be constantly aware of. And I think a good many are. Would you have any questions from Charlotte or anybody, or you want to talk to anybody else? You're more
Could
than
you
welcome.
talk at all about the unit that helped out with this investigation?
You're welcome to if you can.
So we have a human trafficking unit that falls under our Special Victims Division, which consists of a sergeant, 2 detectives, and an analyst, civilian analyst. And they all responded that evening to assist Rowan County. This case is a perfect example of how human trafficking is not a crime that knows any kind of jurisdictional boundaries. So when we are contacted by an outside law enforcement agency such as this, we're eager to help in any way we can, and we're just glad that we could help these guys out that night.
2 questions. One, could you just say and spell your first and last name?
Captain Jim is my first name. Last name is spelled I-V-I-E, Ivy.
Awesome. My question for you is, knowing that he was out on bond or out of jail at the time for other issues and had an ankle monitor, he was able to leave the area. He was sending these minors out, or this minor specifically, into Rowan County to deal with his own deeds. Are you worried that this is a problem that he may have done with other minors? Are we still looking around the Charlotte area for others he may have roped into his scheme?
As far as CMPD's investigation goes into that, and it's in its very early stages. We obviously weren't aware of this individual and what he was doing at the time until we were alerted by Rowan County on that evening. And so in cooperation with them, analyzing all the evidence, electronic evidence, anything about his history, we're gonna dig into that and do the best we can to identify everything he's doing and charge him appropriately. Is it possible for somebody like this suspect to coordinate and organize an entire operation like this individually, or, I mean, do they need some help? Is this more of a, are there other people out there that are maybe working with them? It's hard to say. I mean, it could be one individual acting alone. There could be multiple people, so it really varies. There's no commonality to something like this. Is there any evidence in this particular case that points to him being linked with any larger group? We don't have any evidence at this point to point beyond him.
The team that you mentioned that worked alongside the Rowan County Sheriff's Department, was it out of a certain division in Charlotte, or was it just the CRU teams?
So the investigators that responded were out of our Special Victims Division, which is a headquarters unit. The officers, the uniformed officers that assisted that night were from the University City Division.
All right. Anybody else want anything else?
Are we allowed to hear from any of the detectives, just how the experience was for them to,
That's
if they're okay with it? Does anybody want
want
to?
to talk about that?
Just to hear from you guys, just, you know,
No
what it's
trick
like, how
questions.
rewarding it is to know that your work is.
I think we all, agree that we can't really say a whole lot. And we don't want this to be about us. We want it to be about her and make sure that she knows that, you know, we care and, you know, we're here for her, not only her, but for other victims. So if you are a victim, you know, don't suffer in silence. You know, there are agencies everywhere that do care and we want to do something about it. We need help finding you. So.
Good. And that's Lieutenant Ryan Barkley. R-Y-A-N, Barkley, common spelling. But thank you guys.
One more question.
Sure.
Can I get clarification on this? If this isn't that big of an issue here, or known to be that big of an issue here, what was the reason for the state?
It was, we wanted to know if it was an issue. We stay so busy, we run hundreds of calls a week and thousands a month. But yet we keep hearing this in county commissioner meetings and we keep hearing this in the media, but yet it's something that we never get calls on. So we're thinking, it was actually a fact-finding operation, and on their initiative. They don't want to take any credit. That's why I have to stand out here and kind of toot their horn for them, because they did this on top of all their other assignments. They felt the need. Do we really? This group is a lot of these people standing up here do child crimes. They see children in the worst case scenarios. So it's very important to this group, especially about what happens with children and adults. And they were really curious. Is there people out there we can reach out to and find out? And the only way to know that is to get out there and look. So it's not that we didn't think it was a problem. We were wanting to know where are they at? Because it's the buzzword in the community. It's the buzzword nationally. Human trafficking is just the word right now. Law enforcement goes through key phrases a lot in our career, and this is right now is the one that's getting all the attention. Like I said, from the border of the United States to small cities to big cities, I believe these detectives, I didn't tell them to do this. Their initiative, I truly believe, was to find out, is this a true issue here in our area, and what can we do to make it better? This was a snapshot. This was like a family photograph, trying to get everybody together and see what we could see, because we just weren't getting those reports. But it just reinforces that this is a crime that's seldom ever reported, that you really have to get out there and look for those. And you know, law enforcement, as busy as we are, as busy as Charlotte Mecklenburg police are, we're reactionary. Very seldom do we ever get to be proactive because we're just too busy, right? So when these guys get a chance to be proactive, that's what excites me, that they got to get there before something, you know, it wasn't good what the young lady was in, but she survived. She's out. You know, she can be back with her family. So that's the good part.
Can you say if the location was selected upon the perpetrator or your end?
We just picked the location of a business that would work with us. Okay. And we just set up. We were, like I said, there's no rule book on this. I mean, this is very new. Sorry, most agencies of our size do not have the manpower to do these operations. So it was something that from what the lieutenant told me, they went looking for similar operations and similar training and figured out, well, we're just going to have to wing this one because there's nothing out there. There's no case law out there. There are very few people outside of large organizations like Charlotte, the FBI and the SBI that even do this type of thing. And it's simply for manpower reasons. Sure.
Thank you.
All right. And I've got, for you guys that came, I've got a printout of stuff to give you if you